This show is a proud part of Recovered Life, a media network and peer support community dedicated to mental health and addiction recovery. We bring together expert voices, real stories, and a peer support community to help you live your best recovered life. Join us at recoveredlife.tv.
One of the biggest mistakes people make when talking about recovery is thinking there's only one right way to do it. One path, one method, one definition of success. And if somebody's recovery doesn't look exactly the way we think it should, people get judged, sometimes harshly. But after everything I've seen, after all the conversations, all the stories, I've come to believe something very different. Recovery is personal, deeply personal. And while accountability matters, honesty matters, and responsibility matters, the path itself, the path can look different from person to person. So today, I want to talk about recovery, what people misunderstand about it, why comparison can be dangerous, and why healing doesn't always happen the same way for everybody.
Boomer in Recovery.
You're listening to Boomer in Recovery, the podcast about mental health and addiction recovery from a boomer's perspective. And here is your host, Cecil.
Welcome back. I think human beings naturally want clean answers, especially when it comes to addiction and recovery. We want certainty. Do this, don't do that. This is the correct way. And honestly, I understand why. Because addiction, it's scary. Watching somebody struggle is painful, so people look for formulas. Recovery rarely works like a formula. I've seen two people with almost identical struggles, same background, same substances, same life circumstances. And what worked for the one person didn't work for the other one at all. One person needed structure and routine immediately, and the other person just needed to stabilize emotionally before they could even think clearly enough to work on recovery. And that taught me something important. Recovery is not assembly line healing. People are complicated. Pain is complicated, and healing is complicated too. One thing that really hurts people in recovery is comparison. Comparing timelines, comparing methods, and comparing progress. Well, they got sober faster. They seem happier. Why am I still struggling? And honestly, social media makes this even worse sometimes. Because people tend to show the polished version of recovery. The success story, the transformation photos, the motivational quotes. But real recovery is messy sometimes. There are good days, bad days, doubt, frustration. Sometimes the growth feels obvious, and sometimes it's invisible. And one of the hardest things people can do is stop measuring their healing against somebody else's timeline. Recovery isn't a race, it's rebuilding. I think one of the biggest problems in recovery conversations is that people only notice outcomes. They don't see the internal battles. They don't see the cravings somebody's fought through, the panic attacks, the shame, the loneliness. They just see whether somebody succeeded or failed. Hell, I remember somebody once saying people think recovery is about quitting substances. And then they said something I'll never forget. The substance, that was just the visible part. You know what? And that hit me hard because underneath addiction, there's usually fear, pain, trauma, self-worth issues. And if people don't work on those deeper things, they often end up feeling emotionally lost even after getting sober. That's why recovery isn't just subtraction, it's rebuilding identity. Now, this part can get controversial sometimes because even inside recovery communities, people argue about what counts as real recovery. Total abstinence, MAT, medication-assisted treatment, therapy, support groups, everybody seems to have an opinion. And look, people are passionate because recovery matters to them. I understand that. But I've also seen something dangerous happen. Sometimes people become so focused on defending their method, they stop seeing the human being in front of them. Hell, I've seen people make incredible progress using approaches other people criticized. Their relationships improved, their health improved, their stability improved. And yet there are still people saying, yeah, but it doesn't count unless you do it this way. And honestly, I struggle with that mindset. If somebody's life is genuinely getting better and healthier, I think that deserves encouragement. Now, having said all that, recovery still requires honesty. Because there's a difference between healing and making excuses. Recovery isn't about avoiding accountability. It's about facing reality honestly. And that's hard work. Sometimes it means admitting I need help, I'm struggling, I'm not. And for a lot of people, especially for my generation, that can feel terrifying. Because we were taught independence, handle your problems, don't burden people. But healing often begins the moment somebody stops pretending. Honesty is uncomfortable, but it's also freeing. Something else I've learned, recovery is bigger than substances. It's about learning how to live differently, how to manage stress differently, how to communicate differently, and how to cope differently. Sometimes people stop using substances, but still feel emotionally trapped because they haven't learned peace yet. I've seen people discover things in recovery they never expected. Healthy routines, connection, purpose. Some people reconnect with family. Some people reconnect with themselves. And honestly, watching somebody slowly believe in themselves again, that's powerful. Recovery isn't just about stopping something. Sometimes it's finally starting something healthier. So no, recovery isn't one size fits all. Different people heal differently. Different struggles require different approaches. And while there are absolutely common principles, honesty, accountability, growth, the actual journey, that journey can look different from person to person. And maybe instead of asking, why isn't their recovery exactly like mine? We should ask, are they becoming healthier, more honest, more stable, more connected? Because at the end of the day, recovery is about people rebuilding lives. Sometimes slowly, sometimes imperfectly, and rebuilding from nothingness. I appreciate you being here. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody who may need to hear it too. Because conversations like this matter, especially for people who spent years believing they had to struggle alone. We'll talk again soon.